I decided to use station rotations for the model that will work best for my students. I chose station rotations because I'm familiar with it. I've done it before in the past, and I can see how well my students do, and they like having the different stations, so I wanted to continue using that for this blended learning activity. With the problem that I'm going to try and solve, well, I focused on math, and with the problem within math is that students are all at different levels when it comes to solving the problems. You know, some might have some high kids, some low kids, some kind of in between. So that's the problem with just kind of trying to figure out how best to teach them so that the way they're all successful. So trying to figure out how to put them into groups to differentiate and be able to help them with different manipulatives that they might need and just whatever is going to help them learn to their ability of what they need. So the type of team I would need to try and solve the problem would be just a functional team because it's just within my own classroom. I would figure out what's going to work best for my own students and put them into those groups that's going to help them be the most successful. I would want my students to be able to control their pacing. When it comes to the independent activity and the practicing online, I want them to have complete control of their pace. So they will already know what pages they can be working on online, but then they will be able to solve the problems at whatever pace that they can. So maybe some kids are solving them really quickly. Some of them are taking a little bit longer. That's okay. Like, I want them to know that if they only got 3 problems done in the amount of time, then that's fine, that we can always pick it up the next day. And so I think that's important that they have control over that, of just knowing that as long as they're working hard and they're trying, it's okay if they didn't get through all of the problems. So just allowing them to have that control. The primary role of the teacher would be me being in a group, working with about 6 kids or whatever. My role would be that I get the chance to still work with all of my students. I would just break them down into groups. So I would have 4 groups, little at a time, instead of teaching whole groups. So I would still be teaching them the same skill in math. They would be practicing whatever it is that we're working on for the day, and I would be able to model that and show them how to solve the problems, and then they would be able to do some problems with me. That way they could, check for understanding. I could give them feedback if they're needing help to kind of guide them to that way. When they go to the next step or the next rotation that they might have, which might be, practicing their activity with a partner, they would be able to then do what we just did in our small group. So whatever it is that I just showed them, then they can go and continue practicing that with a partner. So with the physical space that I would use would be like this diagram here. I go from the teacher station, one group would start with me. It's usually I start with my lowest group, that way they can first see what to do and they go through the steps just like the circle here. They would practice that activity with a partner, get more practice to start feeling better about how to do it on their own, and then once it's time to rotate, they would go to the independent activity where they would already have the assignment. Like I said, I would either have the assignment written on the board or I would have told them in the teacher station, but probably written on the board so that way everyone would know when they're at that activity what to do. They would get in their journals, they would start solving problems. Then they would go to the tech station where they would get online and they would be able to solve those problems by themselves. The pictures, would basically what I said, here's me sitting here at a table with some students. We're all working hard. I'm showing them what to do. Then they are practicing by themselves, not talking to each other. They can do group partner activity in one rotation where they are talking with somebody and they're practicing that skill, getting a few more practice times, and then there's their tech time that they are on the computers practicing. The thing with the rotations, though, is that not every student is going to go through the exact same rotation every time. Like, we're not all going to start here because obviously I can't do that. So some students are going to start at different stations, and that's okay. So some might first start on the tech station, and then they might come to me, and then they might do this or whatever. Like, it just depends on them. So usually my higher kids, I start either on the independent activity or the tech station because I know that they can solve the problems and they don't need my guide right at the very beginning, so they are more free to do that, and I work with the other ones of guiding them first and they're practicing. Just kind of depends, but it sticks. Once we start going, their rotation will always be the same. They know where they go next and what to do, but just starting out, we just kind of have to feel it out of what works best for my students. So yeah, I'm excited to continue using the station rotations throughout the year.